it come? Where all are you sharing it?
There, it's live. Mine's going to my business Facebook and
Okay.
then my YouTube. So if you want to share it to our group in your Facebook,
Yep, that's what I'm gonna do right now. There it is. No, it's showing 2 hour, 20 hours ago.
here we are. We are live.
I'm gonna get some echo here. Let me mute this. Probably can't hear me, can you? All right, I'm unmuted. It was trying to play both ways. So yeah, we're up and rolling, man.
Your video is not showing up on my Facebook Live feed. Like I can see that you're there, but
Gotcha.
it's not showing your actual feed.
Well, my internet is running like crap today.
Okay. Oh, there you're
So
on. You're on
I
now.
need to get a hold of Elon and see what's up.
Yeah.
I don't know if them satellites are just running a little slow today, but yeah, I noticed it right before we got on. Like it was loading everything really, really slow. But yeah, I was kind of surprised last night just messing around. We had a few people get on here.
Yeah, I'm hoping they'll join in tonight.
Right. We'll hang out here for a little bit for you.
Oh, Wyatt Young's on.
Wyatt's in there. Hey, what's up, Wyatt?
Thanks for the follows, Wyatt. Saw you followed me. Just kind of messing around here. See, get some people on and try to get. Long day today for you.
Yeah, not too bad though. I finally starting to get some parts in here. The the part situation from these OE companies, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, some of this is just killing me.
Yeah.
Getting parts here is like, honestly, I haven't seen it this bad since like the COVID stuff. Right after COVID, man, you couldn't, everything was nothing, everything's available, just nobody has it in stock. So it's, if you need a part, it's 3 to 5 days. You need a part, it's 3 to 5 days. So
Seems to be the minimum, huh?
yeah, it's kind of irritating, really.
I've noticed when I was coming up, which really wasn't that long ago. I'm only 35, but in the early 2000s, you could get parts for old cars still, 1970s, 80s, whatever. And like I have this 1970 Oldsmobile now, and I have to order everything for it, like just general stuff you used to just be able to get off the shelf at like Advanced Auto and stuff. I have to order.
Right.
They don't carry it anymore at all. It's just times are changing.
I think maybe they learned to run on less inventory. I don't know. I pre-COVID, I mean, it was nothing to, your local part stores here. To me, we got an AutoZone, an Napa, O'Reilly. You would go on there, say I don't know, like a 2009 Chevy Tahoe or something. There's a million of them, or even bigger yet, maybe the Grand Caravans or something like that. Them things are everywhere.
Yeah.
And it'll show that, you need a brake caliper and they'd have a left one, but not a right one. I mean, pre-COVID, they would have 5 or 10 of them, because there were so many of those on the road and stuff that you still see on the road every day. You'll do a brake job and you're doing pads and rotors, and they literally got one set of pads and rotor, or maybe more pads, but one set of rotors for that given truck. It's like, man, at one time they used to stock a whole lot more.
Yeah, I have to order even my spark plugs. They don't stock them. I got a new set of spark plugs the other day, and I was putting them in, and for whatever reason, I cracked 2 of them. My extension got up against my master cylinder and twisted it just right. It cracked 2 of my plugs when I was putting them in, so I had to get more. They had to order them in. They don't stock them at all. They had to order the ones in I bought, and then this 2 days they have to order these ones in. It's just, it's pretty typical AC Delco plug, R43S plug. It's not even anything crazy, but it's an old style plug.
I guess that kind of leads to something I was going to bring up too, is I ran into a video guy talking about it, and I also started doing some of my own research a little bit on it, about looking at parts, but how much of that market, I'm talking about parts, they're not stocking it. And some of that may be just due to the fact that people go to Amazon and the Rock Autos and those places, they're ordering so much online now that wasn't the way, people got stuck at home, they started ordering from the internet, I guess. I don't know. So maybe that's driving some of those things. But this guy was talking about the fact that you can order like knockoff NGK spark plugs on Amazon for like $3 a spark plug, where, pretty much across the board, I would say anything less than probably $12 is the norm for a set of NGKs, or higher. So that, how much of that stuff, knockoff, I've seen the knockoff magnetic distributors like the ACES style distributor, the MSDs, and they're using the same red everything as an MSD, and they really don't look like terrible parts, but I mean.
No, I bought a Speedmaster. It was basically a Pro Billet knockoff Speedmaster, and it was built, just as nice and everything as the MSD, but the magnetic pickup in it was junk straight out of the box.
Right.
Which same magnetic pickup as MSD, easy to get, easy to put in.
I mean, I feel like I could, with the, a knockoff spark plug, or you getting a, plug, wire, that kind of stuff, especially electronic stuff. Are you getting I'm sure all of it's made in the same place in Malaysia or some, Taiwan, wherever. But, is there maybe some criteria that they're using that, in the quality control, that maybe this batch of NGKs goes to the part suppliers and this batch that's on the fringe of being good, we're just going to sell them, and we're going to sell knockoff ones. And, there's no way that they're selling them that much cheaper, and guys having problems with them. Like you were talking about testing the wires or ohm rating or whatever.
Yeah.
Last night we were kind of talking about that a little bit, and I would be curious with some of these cheap brands, if you order them and you were to get a quality brand and test them, are they going to hold up to that? Are they?
Yeah.
Man, that kind of leads into when you're tuning. If you've got a little bit of a misfire, say you've just accidentally cracked a plug where you're leaking a little bit of that spark. You don't really, not enough that you've got a big full-on miss, but you've got kind of that misfire or a little bit of a stutter, still firing some, but
it's something you can't take down.
Right. Well, or
that.
For instance, I've got one that I'm working with right now that he has a pop out the tailpipe idling, and it's a random, sitting there idling, and it's, pop, 3, 4, 5 seconds later, pop. And it's not like a big booming pop, just a little pop. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, I tried advancing the timing up, at idle there to see if, obviously if you retard that timing, you're probably going to see a little more after, trying to afterburn or after in the exhaust trying to ignite. It's like, man, it's idling pretty good. The AFRs look good. Everything, we've messed around with the timing a little bit, and obviously air leaks, vacuum leaks can cause that. A header leak could cause that.
Mm-hmm.
Timing too far retarded could cause that. I mean, there's several things that could cause that pop. But I'm like, let's rule out. He's like, well, it runs good, dry, starts nice now. We're on like the first revision. We really haven't got to take it out. We've went through that. That was the one that had the I posted up about the plugged map sensor.
Oh yeah.
Which actually still, believe it or not, still had the pipe plug in it. He installed the pipe plug, so that he shouldn't have. I'm not real sure how it even read any map. Like we had talked about, it had to be that there was a leak. It was leaking around the threads to see how it was seeing map. I don't think the ACES system would infer that map setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
I was kind of perplexed on how that was even reading
anything.
Like you said, it was reading, but it was super delayed up and down. And I was just, the only thing that I could think of was it was pulling through the threads on the.
It had to be, or there's some other place. There's an orifice somewhere that it's able to pull, air across it. I have no clue, but yeah, once he took that off, it was definitely better. Oh yeah, I know what I was talking about now. Is the pop in his exhaust. I'm like, when I took a bunch of timing out of it, the pop got better at idle. Less frequent. Let's say that. He said, well, that seems to be better, but the timings, I knocked a bunch out. I'm talking like 10 degrees of timing, and that seemed better. And I'm like, that's working opposite of what it should. If we were igniting late in the exhaust, taking timing out of it should have made that popping and booming even worse. I was like, we need to look at spark plugs. What are they? Well, I think he said they were auto lights or something like that. I can't remember, but which I'm not a fan of those, but whatever. With it running with that map sensor, I'm sure plugged. It when he originally sent me the tune file on it, or he sent me some data logs with it as well. I mean, it was like stupid rich. This thing was running at like 9.5 to 1.
Oh, geez.
It was doing some, well. The first 15, 20 seconds of the engine running, it's idling at 800 RPMs at 90 kPa. So you can only imagine, in that area of the map, how much fuel it was dumping at, which is a spot that it never lives, So I told him before we could probably tune and we could mess with timing and we could probably get that pop out, or we might get it better, but let's rule out a cracked spark plug, a bad spark plug wire.
You have to stick leaks. With the basics. The basics have to be your principle.
Because I think what you run into when sometimes you can tune around a mechanical problem.
Yeah.
So then, and it runs halfway decent. You could have a small vacuum leak, and you absolutely could adjust that thing and get it to run pretty good. A small vacuum leak. 6 months down the road, the guy pulls the intake off and he puts a different intake on or something, or what have you. He's in there, he needs to change a lifter or something. He has the intake off and he puts it back on, and he had an intake leak. Now he's reinstalled that intake, inadvertently fixed his vacuum leak. Now his tune went bad. Well, it didn't go bad. It was tuned. Previously, you tuned around the mechanical problem, and now your tune doesn't work right because you were leaking, you had some, percentage of unmetered air that you were adding fuel to, or whatever, across the board. So I mean, that's where that was one of the other things I kind of want to talk about tonight. We kind of lead right into these things that, man, you got to have the wiring, you got to have the installation, you got to make sure you don't have leaks. You have to make sure you got good spark plugs, because there are some small things that you can tune and get pretty decent and then inadvertently fix. When I hear it a lot, especially in the diesel world, well, my tune went bad. It was running fine. they've got bigger injectors. They've done a bunch of work to it. Well, my tune went bad. No, your tune didn't go bad. It did. That's not how it works. When it's flashed in there, when you put that tune file in, when you're in ACES and you hit write to ECM, it's written in there on a chip. It's not going to disappear unless you have a problem with that chip, or that it would lose memory of some sort. Then you got an ECM problem. You don't have a tune problem. You got an ECM problem. So that's something that is hard to explain to people, and they really, that's the exhaust, an exhaust leak. Buying a cheap Amazon intake and exhaust leaks, and you can go to Amazon and buy from $40 all the way to a couple $100. You can buy a smoke machine.
Yep.
Stick that thing in the tailpipe, stick that in the header, whatever, pump that thing full, put that smoke in there, see if you've got a leak. Put it in the intake. Not only are you looking for external leaks, but pull the oil cap. See if you're getting some, you got to wait a little bit, but you'll get some smoke coming out of your valve covers.
Yeah.
Those little things like that right there can definitely be tuned and make them run halfway diesel with a small amount of leakage. And it'll wreak you havoc down the road when you fix that problem, and possibly even fix it inadvertently without even knowing that you fixed it. You were in there doing something else or an upgrade to something, and now you're calling your tuner saying, Nick, Charlie, you guys tuned this thing, and now my tune went bad. No, your tune didn't go bad. We tuned around a problem, and it's hard. That's one of the drawbacks of a remote tune. Is we are not there. We can diagnose some major issues, but those little ones are very hard to see.
Yeah, and just as simple as that map reading at idle. If you have a small, same with the IAC reading. If you have a very small vacuum leak, like you're talking about, that map reading might not be above or below what you consider to be normal for the cam that it has. And then you tune it, and just exactly like you're saying, they had an intake gasket go bad or something like that down the road. They fix it. They no longer have that small little leak. And then it's amazing the little things that you fix that you didn't even know that you had, and how much they affect your tune.
Yep, they can.
Definitely just from changing plugs, wires, cap, all that. On my personal car, I had to go in and do retune with that, because I ran those plugs way too long. Number one, but I ran those for an entire those specific set of plugs I ran for an entire season. And they were burnt out.
It's rare, but I've had them straight out of the box, Delco spark plug, and put them in, and or even a coil, all these coil on plug cars, and change a spark plug in a coil and still have a little bit of a misfire. And You don't want to right off the bat suspect a brand new part. And I've literally chased for days sometimes a small misfire or rough idle, and you end up pulling the spark plug out and changing the spark plug again. And, you've done compression tests, you've done all this stuff trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and literally have a bad spark plug out of the box. So, I mean, it's very rare, but, I think your chances, that's why I was talking about the Amazon stuff. If they're making knockoff spark plugs and things of that nature, I would think that your frequency of finding a bad one in that lot would probably be pretty high.
Yeah. When it comes to buying parts, in my opinion, some cheap parts are okay, depending on the category of part it is. But there's other things that it's non-negotiable. You just don't skimp on. Spark plugs would be one of them. I'm never going to buy an off-brand spark plug,
Cam, crank sensors, things like that, especially in your jackpot stuff. Cam and crank sensors, man, a Delphi sensor's got to be the way to go. If an OEM sensor, and I know there was some issues they have with magnetic sensors or whatever that they've taken care of with this last couple updates, I think. But yeah, I've seen cam and crank sensors right out of the box just have issues, no cram sync. You get the scope on it, and and see that they're not sinking or they're missing teeth and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
High internal resistance in them, and they'll make things run funny. I had one on a Chrysler one time, one of those Dodge Chargers with the early Hemi in it. That sensor, the crank sensor, on the scope, it had a good waveform. It looked perfect. It was reading. For whatever reason, everything that was on that 5-volt reference circuit, so it had like coolant temp sensor, that the crank sensor, the throttle position, or basically your throttle body is throttle by wire. That 5-volt was running off of that. The accelerator pedal, APP1 was on that 5-volt circuit. The APP2 circuit was on the other 5-volt circuit, and that circuit was running fine. We put a crank sensor in it, and it still, it wouldn't run. It wouldn't sync that crank sensor that had a dead pedal. And we'd put a AutoZone or one of those companies, we'd put one of their coolant temp sensors in it.
Yeah.
And it affected everything on that 5-volt reference, everything that was daisy chained together on that circuit, it was knocking everything for a loop. So ended up putting an OEM, Mopar coolant temp sensor in there, and our crank signal and everything was able to sync. And so, I mean, even a coolant temp sensor could screw with some stuff at times. I mean, as simple and cheap as a temp sensor is.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, there's so many background readings and adjustments being made based off of coolant temperature. If you're 10, 15 degrees off, that could mean a lot in some areas.
If you're talking about like the ACES stuff too, like I showed you that, in some of those drawings, their wiring diagrams, most of the sensors ground in the same location.
Yeah.
According to the drawings, they're all tied together. So, I mean, if you had something that had a weird resistance or whatever, it could affect another sensor down line of it or upstream of it.
Yeah, I actually did replace my coolant temp sensor last year. It was about 20 degrees off. I didn't really notice much with it though. The only thing I really noticed was the fact that what it was reading. But as far as performance and tuning went, it really wasn't affecting a whole lot. But that's a lot different. When you go from standalone to factory, that coolant temp sensor almost means a little bit more on a factory ECU.
For sure. I know Ford relies pretty heavily in their factory software on the coolant temp in the past, and now a lot of them now don't even have that. They are on a cylinder head temperature. So if you hook a scan tool to them, they'll say it'll show you an engine coolant temp. There's a PID for it, but it actually doesn't have a coolant temp sense. It's got just a cylinder head temperature. So I'm not exactly sure how they do it. I think they take like the coolant, ambient air temp, cylinder head temp, intake air temp, and they kind of mash all those together, and it infers a coolant temp number, and that thus giving you your gauge as well.
One thing I noticed with ACES, you can monitor estimated air temp. That it obviously uses calculations from other temperatures to estimate the air temp. It is very, very far off the estimated ambient air temp.
Is he Paul's comment? Is he talking about the coolant temp or the intake air?
If it shows a coolant temp, that as long as that coolant temp's accurate with the actual temperature of the coolant, then it wouldn't affect anything.
Now it would affect it, if your temp sensor is saying it's -40 out and you're
right. Yep.
And it's actually 70, that's going to be a big deal because it's going to throw all of your temperature based tables are going to be off. So needs to be pretty close to what it actually is.
It'll be dumping the fuel, that's for sure.
Or vice versa. If it was reading 500 degrees or something, whatever.
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to start worth of crap in the winter either, or colder temps. You start kill temp.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when
It
you
seems like
power,
when they fail, they normally when a cool temp fails, it seems like they always go to like negative
yeah, it's a
number.
negative number. Yeah.
Usually they'll hammer to like I don't know on the Aces. I've never seen one failed on theirs, but I mean on the OEM side, you'll see like a negative 120 degrees or something, or negative 50.
My fuel pressure sensor just went out. It was a factory Asus sensor, just went out 2 nights ago, and it went 1.7 psi on the monitor, and then other times it goes back and forth. It'll read like 1.7 psi, and then another time it'll read like 980, 970 some odd psi, like it's not hooked up.
So do you have that enabled to look at your fuel pressure?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that probably makes it start running pretty funny, doesn't it?
Well, actually, Aces, I don't believe does anything with fuel pressure sensor readings other than the actual reading itself. It doesn't make any calibrations off of that sensor.
I believe there's a setting in there that it makes fuel calculations by the fuel pressure.
I think it only makes the calculations from the fuel pressure you enter as fuel system pressure. I think. It doesn't run any different at all.
I was just curious, yeah, because I think that
he says he's showing 91 and the truck's not even running. Well, do you think there's a chance that your coolant temp could be 91 degrees? Was it, sitting in direct sunlight all day or anything like that?
or the other. I would be curious if the other sensors are reading the same. Are they reading high as well, like your intake air
what's
temp?
your MAT reading, Paul? Here somewhere.
Yeah, I was just looking at this. This fuel injection FPS comp says that
what system is that for? The kill shot, your kill shot 2, or
this is on a kill shot 1 I'm looking at right now. That's the file I'm working on with this guy. So it says when enabled, this system uses real-time fuel pressure data to adjust injector pulse width and fuel trims more accurately. So
yeah, that's the
maybe it can also see that if that goes haywire, that it's not gonna. Maybe there's some filtering there that it doesn't.
Yeah, I
go nuts because you're reading you got 1,000 psi or something.
Yeah, I have that turned off because of the fluctuation.
That's what I was asking if you were running that or not, if you had it enabled.
Yeah, I enabled it before, and there was something funny with it in the way that it ran, and then when I turned it back off, it went away. I need somebody actually sent me, and I can't even remember who it is now, sent me a part number for an inline pulse dampener for the fuel pressure sensor. I can't remember who sent me that, but he said that it works great. It's steady fuel pressure. It doesn't even bounce a couple psi or nothing.
Even when the injectors are firing, you're not seeing. Because I mean, you will see a little fluctuations every time the injectors fire.
I can't remember who sent me that, but I do. Paul says my what? Your MAT, manifold air temperature. It'll you can look at it on your handheld or in your advanced software.
Yeah, it stands for manifold air temp. I would be curious if it's reading the same or nearly the same or something weird's going on there.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting there, not being ran, it should damn near read ambient, real close to it. Now, if your coolant temperature sensor is that far off, I do have a part number here for a coolant temperature sensor. I'm just trying to. Jeez, man.
I'm just asking, with if it's reading that.
That is showing 82. So yeah, that's pretty accurate. And your coolant temp showing 91. That's probably not too far off, I wouldn't think. I mean, if your truck's sitting outside and the hood's closed and the sun was on it all day, or that could easily.
I mean, even if you ran it in the morning, I mean, it's going to hold some temperature for several hours. I mean, it may drop back down to within 10 or 15 degrees of the ambient, but I mean, it's the cold start. I'd be curious what it looks like in the morning, after setting overnight. If it's setting overnight and it's been 70 degrees for that wouldn't be correct. Something's going on there. But I think we're having some electrical issues too, Paul.
Yeah, that could tie in with what you were saying. Haven't started it instead.
I think I seen one of the posts. He was having some electrical issues, voltage drop or something. So I mean, if he's still seeing that voltage drop from the difference from the battery to the handheld, that could be part of it, because the voltage supplied to that, which I would think would actually make it read lower, but I don't know. If the voltage that the ECM's supplying to that coolant temp sensor could be skewing it a little bit. If it's not seeing a full 12 volts at the ECM, maybe it's only supplying 7 or 8 volts to the whatever. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That could skew your temperature a little bit, because all it is your battery voltage going to it and it ground. It's just a thermal.
And then output
thermal potentiometer type.
Then it takes in battery voltage and outputs 5 volts. 5 volts.
Yeah, as the hotter it gets, the resistance climbs and gives you a higher.
Yeah.
Higher the resistance, higher the temperature.
Showing 1380. I mean, it's really hard to say for sure. I mean,
they're cheap. I'd throw a sensor in it just to see. I mean, if it's off 20 degrees, that really could affect cold starts, especially. I mean, it could affect.
I'll put a part number for them in the comments just in case. I mean, it's hard to diagnose that without it being off. If it was visibly off 30 or 40 or 50 degrees, then you'd definitely say that. But
I mean, they're cheap, like $10-15. It might be worth just going and grabbing one just to stick it in, just to see. Even if you don't put it in the manifold, just plug one in and see what it. Obviously you have to ground it, so maybe you should install it. But if you've got a good spot that's grounded, you should be able to lay that thing on there. Which actually those are a 2-wire. You don't have to ground that. It should read ambient. You don't have to have it grounded. Correct? I'm right. Yeah.
For the sensor, you can just plug it in.
Your old single wire, you would have to have it in the block or touching the ground for it to read. Those are 2 wires.
Yeah.
So
if you just plug it in and have it out, it should read real close to ambient. There, I posted that GM coolant temp sensor number. I'll list that there. And there's two other ones. If that one's not available, there's two other part numbers. But I don't think that's too far out of the realm. I do know there was some posts going around, I don't know, a few months ago, maybe almost last year or something, about there was quite a few people saying that they didn't believe their coolant temp reading on the sensor, that it was off. So I mean, that very well could just be a sensor going bad.
I mean, if not, I mean, again, like we were talking about, I would urge against doing this, but I think you can go in there and could you scale the voltage on the coolant temp?
I believe you can.
I'm looking real quick right now.
Well, like you said, I probably wouldn't recommend.
No, I mean, I would rule out everything,
Right.
first. I mean, doesn't look like, for sensors, the only thing that you can scale is that oil pressure and your fuel pressure.
Oh, okay.
To scale the voltage, that's the only thing I see. So you could go in there again, you'd be tuning around, telling, if you messed with any of your temperature based. So you wouldn't really want to do that. You'd want to get down to the root of the cause on that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, I suppose, if you could adjust, like you can the fuel pressure and oil pressure.
I've never ordered a sensor that came with a voltage scale with it. Is that something you'd have to look up in a book, or is that something you have to get online? Or I've never had a sensor come with an insert or anything of that nature.
So if you look at the sensor screen, like it says here, has an operating range. Typically, operating range for a fuel pressure sensor is 0.4 volts to 4.65 volts. So what you'd want to probably do, when you're configuring it,
Interpret
it
like
looks like they have, yeah. You can tell it whether you're using a ACES fuel pressure sensor, or you can use a 1D table. In that 1D table, then you could scale it, and it's volts per PSI. So, I mean, if you you would want to put a mechanical gauge on there. In my mind, this is the way I would do it. I would put a mechanical gauge on there and adjust that at a couple different, like low, let's say, like in here, the lowest they have is 18.8. It's 0 is 0.5 volts.
right.
1 volt is 18.8. So I would try to take that, to those numbers that are in here and see what it was reading. If I was on the gauge, I was reading 20 and this was set at 18.8, you could change that to 20. That's probably close enough that it's not going to make a huge difference, but you could take your, with a multimeter and just probably could back probe or whatever and test that voltage and dial that in. But I would say most of the sensors you're going to buy are probably going to be pretty close to this anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said,
vary too much.
Yeah, I mean, if you were seeing at 1.5 volts and it was reading 18 psi, you may want to go in there and tell the system to rescale it. And I don't think it would be very hard to do. Same with oil pressure; it's the same thing. But you would need it with the oil pressure again. It would be, seat of the pants if you didn't have a gauge on it. So you would want to put an actual physical gauge, I would think, to make sure that if you had a port, so you could verify that oil pressure or fuel pressure to volts. It's just a pressure to voltage.
Right.
I mean, I put one on, didn't use an ACES one. It was actually a cheap one from, I'm drawing a blank, company that sells a lot of,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't think of people say Kill Devil. It ain't Kill Devil. What the
Oh, like Evil Energy.
Evil Energy. I ordered one of theirs. I think they're like $30 on there.
Yeah.
I used one of theirs, and I mean, it plugged in and it's almost spot on. I mean, versus the fuel gauge. I mean,
Right.
it's right on the money.
That's
If that gauge is accurate,
my fuel tank. Uh, well, mine's a Evil Energy fuel cells. What I have in mine, and I just hooked it up to the factory wiring for the factory fuel gauge, and it reads accurately, but it needs to be, which you can't do obviously, but it needs like a different scaling or something like
for the fuel
kind of,
pump.
yeah. But it reads accurately. It just every time it sloshes it, it moves right with the whole level,
Right. And then some of that you may not be able to get out of it.
right. But I'm just happy if as long as I know that if I'm out of gas, at least I know.
No, it reads accurately when you're full, you're full. When you're half tank, you're half tank.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
So they got there's a company called, I think it's called like Gauge Helper or something like that. When you put a modern tank in a pickup truck or an old car or a fuel cell or something like that, you can use, and it's a little box. They're fairly inexpensive that you can adjust the. And I think basically what it does is it spits out what your factory gauge wants for far as resistance.
Okay,
It
I
takes
got
what you actually have, and it kind of converts that to operate your gauge right. Takes a little bit to mess with. It's got a couple little buttons,
Mhm.
but you have to have your fuel tank empty. So you got to
Oh, it has to
set
be
it.
empty.
Yeah, you
Okay.
have to set it with the float all the way at the bottom. You basically got to tell it, program it that that's zero. Then you raise it all the way up. You wouldn't have, I guess you wouldn't have to have your tank empty, but you'd have to pull your sending unit out. Is you have to hold it wide open. You push a button to set your high point. Then they have you put it at half tank, and you set that, and then it calculates what it is, and then It's a driver. It sends where you would normally have you got a ground here going through your fuel sender, then to your gauge. The wire going to your gauge, and I believe it has a power to ground for it, so it lights up. The wire going to your gauge, it takes that, interrupts that signal, and spits out a accurate signal for you. I think they're fairly expensive. I think they're like $70 or something, 60, $70. Pretty handy if you got an old car
Yeah.
that reads to use more of a modern, especially if you're using a modern tank that has a different resistance in it than what that gauge would have ever seen. You want to retain the old gauges. I worked on a 65 Chevy that was in here a while back the guy did those normally would have had the fuel tank behind the seat there,
Yeah.
pickup truck.
Yeah.
They body worked and shaved all that off, and they had a nice fabricated tank in between the frame rails behind the axle. And we had to set his fuel gauge because he had the factory style fuel gauge. They were replacement, but the gauge didn't read right, and that little box dialed it in pretty nice. It was like if it had more than a quarter tank, it read full.
Okay. Yeah.
And it would read full until, well, he said it read full until about 6 miles before you were out of gas. So, and you're walking. So,
You need a little bit more time than that.
right. He said it dropped, but he said it literally would drop to E or below E in just a few miles. He said, you look out at the gauge one time and you're full, and the next time you look at it, it's about the time the truck starts spitting and sputtering and you realize you're out of gas.
Yeah. Paul said he took his thermo gun and pointed it at the coolant, showed 77 degrees, and the intake is showing 74.3. So, yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, it's that sender on sensor. So, really the only thing
both of them reading high though. The map read high and the coolant temp sensor. There's something electrically going on with that, I would bet. And you got to go back to he was talking about the other day. You had a voltage drop across that. You're still seeing that voltage drop between from your battery to your handheld. There's an electrical problem somewhere. I would bet money on that's what's throwing off that.
That very well could be, especially if it just kind of started doing that out of nowhere. Oh. Oh, that's the wiring. The wiring for that I have my aftermarket tank wired to. That's probably factory 1970 wire too.
Oh
So.
yeah.
I still have a lot of original. There's quite a bit of original wiring in that car yet. Still,
As long as it's not been hacked on or chewed on or anything by chipmunks, a lot of times.
My headlight, all the wiring, plugs, all that stuff for my headlights is 1970. Tail light.
I guarantee, like we were talking about last night, I'm sure
solid copper.
It's good copper wire, As long as it's not got water in it and it's turning green or something, but.
Something that's kind of easily overlooked, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what you were talking about having a small mechanical issue that you can tune around, is changing different things within your tune, and you're only changing one thing, but it causes a chain of events of having to change other things, like adjusting fueling could therefore you might need to go and change decay, or you know what I mean?
Right. One of the things that I found too, and I think a lot of people overlook with like the TPS, you hear a lot of people say, "Well, go to that. Was it a TPS versus acceleration?" Or
oh yeah, acceleration enrichment versus TPS.
Yes, yeah. That a lot of guys will say, "Well, I've got that lean bog, crank that up, or take that up." See, and that essentially works like a accelerator pump,
right,
on a carburetor, and that's correct. What I found is on an older Chevy truck that when you would give it gas, when you hit the pedal, that pedal would move roughly probably a quarter inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch before the throttle linkage would actually move, or I should say before it moved. It was starting to move before we seen TPS.
Okay, I got you.
And making sure that's kind of a problem too. So if you start cranking that up, you might actually be giving it quite a bit more throttle than
you think you are.
Right. So I mean,
yeah.
And I'm bad about it myself. You make adjustments and re-zero in that, but key off, man, it's not a bad idea every once in a while. Just key on, engine off, get your hand held, or just hold that thing wide open and make sure that TPS is reading 100%.
Oh yeah.
Let off and make sure that thing's coming back down to zero.
And mine
how far do you have to push it before if you're pushing that pedal quite a bit before it reads, re-zero that thing. Try to or mechanically make sure that you don't have any slop in that thing. That's the linkage itself, or something's going on with your.
And actually TPS. on the Kill Shot 1, just because I know for a fact, because that's what I have. Mine only read 95% out of the box, and there's just enough play in the screw holes of the throttle position sensor that you can loosen them up and give that a tiny twist and tighten it back down, and it'll read. It won't quite read 100, but it's like 99.7 or something like that.
That's kind of that. There's some little tiny stuff like that gets overlooked a lot, I believe, And I'm guilty of it too. Is they got to get this ball guy. Let's go over here and make a change. And I've done it too. But sometimes, starting out, you really need to look at those things. And it's probably not a bad practice every once in a while just to hop in your car and put it to the floor and make sure
Make sure it's
that's off.
good.
I mean, heck, if it's off even 2, 3, 4, 5%, that's going to make a difference in tip in. It's going to make a difference drivability.
Also, make sure that your fuel pedal's not getting stuck on your floor mat or something too.
Right. You had that happen.
Yeah, I've had it. Not this car because I have the big long fuel pedal that attaches to the floor and then it runs the rod. But I've had vehicles before where I got my freaking gas pedal stuck down because of the floor mat. Cruising down the road, floor mat gets tangled in it, you start taking off. You're like, what the hell is going on? Well, being near about 7 o'clock here, I don't know if anybody to get back on here or not, but
Yeah, I'd definitely like to get, if anybody sees this video, get with us before next Monday. And, so let's see if we can't find somebody to come on here and talk about their car.
yeah.
Check it out. Maybe it's, if they're available around this time next Monday, maybe we can get them in the shop. And
Yeah. That last night,
do some looking.
Josh Greenhouse, I think he was the first one to mention about it. Maybe I'll try shooting him a message and see if we can't line something up with him here.
Yeah.
Next week.
I think it'd be cool to get in there and check out what they got going on. And
kind of make it instead of people listening to us ramble on about stupid stuff.
Right.
Boring, not stupid stuff, but kind of boring to listen to. I can guarantee that. But try to get some excitement going on in here. It's starting to get nice out too. I might one of these times do a live stream, live tuning my own car driving down the road or something.
Right. That sounds good. You got.
I got a windshield phone mount. You can throw on there and
go out and blow your tires up or something.
No, I could probably do that.
I think you need to be live streaming when you do the dirt track stuff. I think that'd be cool if they let you. I don't know if they'll let you or not.
Oh yeah, I can. Very laid back event. There's a waiver.
I'm sure it looks cool though. I've seen a couple of your videos on it. It looks pretty neat. So you don't go all the way. Do they go all the way around the track, or is it just kind of more like a dirt drag race?
They do it both ways. They have dirt drags on a certain day, and then 2 days, Friday and Saturday, they have open track, full track, open track, $20 to run all day, and then you do four laps at a time, get off, next guy's turn, get back in line. Which is nice.
You've had that big old boat around the track, like circle track style.
Oh yeah, 74 miles an hour on that track.
Is that a quarter mile track or 3/8 or?
It's closer to 3/8. If any of the Rockabilly Ruckus guys hopped on one of these lives, they could tell us. Be cool to have one of them on here sometime. It's a really, really cool event. They don't allow anything newer than 1979. It has to be 1979 or older to be part of that, which I think is cool because then you don't have people bringing, and nothing against them, but old guys that go out and buy brand new Mustang, brand new Corvette, this or that, Charger.
Surely they would. I mean, but would those guys be crazy enough to put it on the dirt?
I doubt it. Maybe if it was somebody my age, if I owned one, I fucking would. One thing I know, and that's it. Keeping the miles off your car is like saving your old lady for the next guy to bang. I've
seen a video. I think one of your videos of a guy, like you were drag racing a guy kind of on the front straightaway or something. That's what it looked like.
That was Sundays before we all go home. They have dirt drags. I lost to a Plymouth Fury or something like that on the last round, but I
It looks
I
fun.
made it through I think 3 or 4 rounds before I got knocked out.
So now, is it just cars, or is it cars and trucks, or?
Cars, trucks, anything, basically anything, um, as long as it's pre 1979, and even if it's like they have LS swapped rat rods and you know
Nothing
the
purpose
engines.
built. You're not racing anything purpose built for dirt drag
There
racing.
is some dirt. There is some guy. Very few have will bring out like actual older dirt cars, but that's another thing too. They're all old circle track stuff that they race. Old stock cars, really old open, like roadsters. There's a couple guys that have them. There they race. If you ever think about it, just look up Rockabilly Ruckus on YouTube. There's tons of videos of everything they race out there.
It looks like a good time. I'm not that far. Was that pretty close to you, or?
It's about an hour away from me. It's at the Trumbull County Fairgrounds in Ohio.
So I'm not that. I'm guessing that's on the other side of Ohio, not the Indiana side. Right?
Yes, it's on my side of Ohio.
It's not too terrible of a drive for me. Probably. I don't know. It seems like that driving across Ohio is almost like driving across Texas. It seems like
Big flat.
that state takes forever. That's the most boring state to drive across.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to drive out to Cleveland area every day when I was delivering propane. That was my route. I ran from PA to Cleveland delivering propane. And boy, was that boring.
I went over there and picked up a Jeep one time, just into Pennsylvania. It was only maybe 5 or 10 miles into the cross state lines, and we took that, was it 80, 90 that goes across the top of,
Yeah.
I believe a toll road or whatever goes across the top of, from north of Fort Wayne, Indiana. I believe you get on it and it takes you all the way across to Ohio. We pretty much were on that highway the whole time. It's maybe 4.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but God, that it seemed like it was 12 hours because you're on it's just flat, boring, nothing.
Yeah, you'd probably be talking. I'd say for you to that car event probably would be about probably. I mean, you'd have to go the whole way across Ohio. That's for me. It's right across the Ohio line, and then maybe 45 minutes from the Ohio line. So it's not very far from my
So
side.
you're pretty close to Ohio then too, then, right?
Yeah, I'm 60.
Did you?
What am I? 60. Right about
There you
60
go.
miles from the line.
Hey, there you go, Ohio people. You need a tuner. You're close to Pennsylvania. There you
Yeah.
go.
I don't know if a lot of people might not know that too, but me and Charlie can coordinate with local dyno shops to remote dyno tune as well. If you have a shop in mind or whatever, usually how it works is they'll charge you for the dyno time, and then you'd obviously be paying for the tuning session.
Yep.
It can all be done. It can all be done remotely. Technology is pretty amazing.
It is, and there's a lot of that goes on. That nowadays that's the biggest thing is it's all remote. I mean, it's email tunes and remote. There's some guys that are dead set that they want to be on a dyno, and that's a good thing because they want to go to a car show. They want to put that dyno sheet out there or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's not a bad thing. Do not get me wrong there. I'm eventually going to have one on my own. I built a new shop. I plan on budgeting in
a steady state dyno would be ideal. Right. Wide open dyno pools don't mean shit to me. Right. Unless that's how I drive, and unless I'm driving wide open, a wide open dyno pool doesn't really mean anything to me.
And even at that, there's a difference between, I wholeheartedly believe you could get a dyno tune that's going to be pretty nice. I mean, it's going to be across the board. It's good.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But when that car goes out to the street, what's it going to do at 80 mile an hour, 90 mile an hour? There's a lot of airflow that comes through under the car, over the car, through the car, that you can't duplicate on dyno. I don't care what anybody says. You can put the biggest, most efficient fans in the world. You cannot duplicate what that car is doing at 90 mile an hour down the road.
Not without a freaking air. Not without. Yeah.
I mean, but I've seen some guys, and I've tuned some through the HP tuners. That guys would take their car to the dyno. I went to the dyno, and they bring you in a dyno sheet. They put a cam in their car. And this thing's making all this horsepower, they've got that. That's cool. It won't cold start. You pull up to a stoplight without giving it throttle. You pull up to a stoplight and it's surging and bucking and snorting and coughing and sneezes, and you get back on the throttle and a lot of dyno shops, and I hate to say it, but a lot of them they put you on there. You're not paying for 2-hour session. They're going to strap that thing down. They're going to make a couple of wide open throttle pulls. They're going to give you a number, maybe even the highest horsepower number they get. And hopefully that guy's somewhat conservative, that he don't send that guy out the door running the maximum amount of timing that he's eked out every bit of horsepower, and that thing's going to roll off the dyno and go daily drive that thing. He's going to blow it up. I'll promise you he will. He's going to blow it up because there's so many different conditions.
You're going to hit a whole different map reading when you're out on the highway compared to a controlled environment.
Yeah, I believe that if that guy, because I've been around this a long time too. You see these guys say, well, so and so's tune only gave me. I made 450 horse. I went over here, got these tunes from this tuner. Now I'm making, I'm making another 40, 50 horsepower.
Yeah.
But that's all you can eke out of that motor. And now you're going to take that thing out, and especially if you daily drive it, maybe do some track stuff. And then you're beating on it a little bit. That engine lasts you a season or a summer. Or of going to shows, cruising, beating on it a little bit, maybe doing some weekend where going to the racetrack and beating on it a little bit. And now you're building a new motor. If that guy really knows what he's doing, he's not going to send you out the door with that coming off the dyno. He's not going to send you out the door making the maximum horsepower unless he doesn't like you. If he likes you, he's probably going to make sure that you don't leave that place on number 11. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it'll die, plain and simple. Knock some, if that guy likes you, he's going to get you dialed in and knock some timing out of it, and he's going to make it where that car's going to live no matter how you beat on it.
So Paul brought up, or on the interstate like we did. That's what I had. He was I think he was the second person I had. I had him turn on his Wi-Fi hotspot on his phone, connect his laptop to it. He did some interstate pools while I was live tuning them. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that worked pretty good. Like I said, I plan on purchasing a dyno. I would love to have one, and I build a shop. I'm going to make sure that when I build my new building, I'm going to have an area designed for. I'll probably go with a hub dyno, I'm thinking, but if I do that. If I go that direction, I'm going to have an area that's going to be dedicated for that. But if I was going to do a full build, full tune, everything, I'm going to tune that thing on the dyno. For one, it's less dangerous, less tickets. It's easier.
Nice,
but I'm still going to take that thing out and drive it. We're going to run it. We're going to drive it around. We're going to run it up and down the road and make sure that it cold starts. It don't cough and snort and die and puke at the stoplight.
The dynos, like the hub dyno in particular, because I kind of took almost kind of like a dyno course kind of, and that is with the particular brand of hub dyno they were using with that steady state where you can lock the map reading, lock the throttle, get it in fourth gear, whatever, and basically lock the RPM. No matter how far you push the throttle, lock that RPM, and then the more throttle you add, it adds load to the engine up through the map range, and then you just go up, get the trims, or see your data, come back down, up the RPM a little bit, run it up.
And you could populate that whole V.
Hit every freaking cell, even cells you'd never hit on a normal.
Right.
That right there, I think, is very, very beneficial and ideal, but not everybody.
Even at that, that's going to be time consuming. And I'm telling you, most dyno shops are not going to do that for you.
No.
Most aren't going to do it. I mean, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, that'd be huge.
I really, and you're the same way. I really, really take pride in what I do, and it's not all about making money or making a living. It excites me to tune a vehicle. It really does. And, to have that thing go from running like shit to running the best that person's ever had. And for them to tell you, man, I was about ready to pull this system off and throw it away and put a carburetor back on. And, you just change it. That keeps me going,
Absolutely.
But, for some people, it's just a job. I mean, they kind of lost their fire, maybe, and who knows? I could lose that one day too. But for right now,
and I will tell you this much too, and I would say this to anybody that's thinking about doing a dyno tune that really, really wants to know that number. They want to, if they haven't done an engine dyno, they didn't build an engine, that if they don't really have those numbers and they really want to see what they're making wheel horsepower, I would recommend, they're not really maybe tuning it themselves, get that remote tune, get those transients, get that thing dialed in as close as you can before you waste your money at a dyno. When you go that, you're at least going to be, get that car running and dialed in and drivable, then put that thing on the dyno and see what.
Take an untuned system to a dyno, you're probably holding back at least 50 to 75, if not more horsepower on that reading.
What are most of these dyno shops here? I mean, you're probably looking at $200 or $300 just to strap the thing down and give you the first hour.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I don't know what most of them charge, $150, $200 an hour. After that, you're trying to work out some of the transients and work out some. That's why a lot of it doesn't get done, because people don't want to pay. I mean, you could have $1,000 bill while you're working on, if you're renting a dyno or if you're paying for dyno sessions. So I would highly recommend going to a remote tuner and get that thing tuned, get it dialed in where it's driving good, it's making good power.
And then go to a car event or something where they're, or a dyno day. Dyno days are a good place. They run a special almost three pools for $150 or something.
But they're probably not going to let you bring your tuner in.
No.
It's on a dyno day. I'm just saying, by the time you pay for a session, if you want to save a few bucks, I would say have that car running pretty decent before you go to the dyno. And that, I would suggest a remote tune for that. And that's also going to verify that tuning. But there's, you're going to find those limits.
You could get a good live remote session, even with some of that Wi-Fi hotspot tuning. If you can get it out on the highway, do some pulls, check some transients and this and that, and kind of get that dialed away, and then take it to a dyno or something. That would be.
And maybe I'm kind of cheap too, man. I wouldn't want to. If I was going to go to a dyno and rent a couple hours of dyno time, I
don't want to go to a dyno because I'd probably get my feelings hurt.
Well, there's that too, but I'm just saying I'm too cheap. I want that car to run. When I get there, I want it to run. I don't want that guy kicking me off the dyno.
No.
I went with a friend of mine. We went down to, he does some dirt track racing. We went to Willie's Carb. You ever heard of that? Willie's Carbs?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Pretty
crazy. They're expensive. Pretty crazy. We went to his actual shop and chassis dynoed that his dirt car. And this very, very knowledgeable guy, by the way. I mean, that's as close as you get to fuel injection in a carburetor.
Hmm.
I mean, he had wide bands and expensive wide bands. He didn't call them wide bands. They were air fuel ratio sensors, and they were about that far out of the header, out of the exhaust port. There was a air fuel
Bung.
sensor
Yeah.
in each pipe of that header, and he was able to see cylinder distribution and stuff, and the way they can move that around. I mean, it was pretty. I learned a lot that day,
That
and I
sounds
seen that
really
guy
cool.
do some things with a carburetor that I didn't think was even possible.
Hmm.
And even with the jackpot, where you have those injector offsets
Yeah,
for all.
individual cylinder correction. Yeah,
I mean, that's basically what he was doing with that carburetor. I mean, he was looking at every cylinder, all 8 cylinders,
and that's
and he
where.
could literally move that, depending on your intake, he could move that Venturi in and out, left, right, whatever. He can make that cylinder to cylinder distribution. Like, I mean, he was within like 0.5% on
Hmm.
every cylinder. Sometimes he said you just can't hit. You got to get as close as you can,
Boy,
because it still is.
I bet that thing was so crispy. It ran
Mm.
like crazy.
And he was pretty excited to mess with it because it was a car that was on E85. I mean,
Hmm.
and that's what most of those guys are running ethanol. So that's all he got to tune on usually was ethanol. So he liked being able to deal with something different. But we got down there the first time on that, and I can't. As soon as we strapped it down, they went and they go through. They don't even question it. Yeah, is your timing set to this? No, they just go out and check it. They
Yeah,
set the timing to make sure they verify everything. And as soon as it started rolling, there was a little bit of vibration. He shut it down. They started looking over the car. They after getting the timing dialed in, and there's still a little bit of vibration. He started to make a pull, and he aborted it. And the slip yoke of the drive shaft, it was a little worn out, and that
yeah,
it had a little bit of vibration to it. And they're like, "Man, we're sorry. We're not going. We won't take it to full song with that drive shaft like that."
yeah,
So he had to. I didn't get to go the next time he went down and made some more of the adjustments, but he had to put a drive shaft in before he could go back. So it cost
yeah.
him quite a bit of money to make 2 trips to that, but I think it was well worth it.
Oh
And we were
yeah.
talking about $25,000, $30,000 motors.
Hmm.
You're gonna zing up there to 7, 8,000 RPMs. It's a big deal.
Well, it looks like we don't have anybody watching currently, so that's probably a good place to end it, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. I think we touched on a little bit of everything. I got one more thing I was going to talk about. We'll just save that till next week.
Yeah, and uh,
It's
we'll end
about
it
time to
here.
start dinner here.
Yeah, we'll be on next week, and if anybody needs to reach out for tuning, you can hit either of us up. So just let us know. We'll be on here. We'll be on here next week. We might. Who even knows? We might have a random pop up day, kind of like we did last week or yesterday, or
Right.
something. So we'll
Yep, you
we'll
never
catch
know.
you guys next week.
Right on. See you guys.